So, I had a pretty public discussion the other day with an alt-right podcaster named Mike Enoch. And as I watch his content, there's a talking point that keeps coming up about the importance of, not just in regards to him, but other people in the alt-right, a tactic in which they, when they engage with the other side, they need to make the welfare and well-being and benefit of white people the center of the moral discussion. Meaning, and this is his words, that the onus is on the other side, which is pretty much me, to make the case to Mike and to the alt-right that any policy, any political system put in place is going to be to the benefit of white people. So I'm gonna do a favor for my brand new homie Mike Enoch, and I'm going to explain to him in as simple terms as I can why empowering black and brown people is to the benefit of white people. How equality is to the benefit of whites. Unless the alt-right intends to leave capitalism behind, and I haven't heard anybody in the alt-right talk about converting to communism, but I would like that very much to persuade the alt-right on the virtues of communism. We'll leave that for another video. So, I guess we should start with citizens in Western countries, and particularly since the area of my expertise is the Bronx. I'm going to just step a little bit further out, not into all of the white world, but just into North America, and particularly the post-apartheid United States. How does helping marginalized people help the majority in group, as the lay alt-right calls it? Well, unless you're going to remove yourself from capitalism, you are going to have to compete financially with any marginalized groups. The way that modern capitalism works, capitalism throughout history, but let's say just after the industrial just so our frame of reference isn't infinite, let's say from the Industrial Revolution on out, because it's very relatable to modern capitalism. So since the Industrial Revolution, there has been a manufacturing of an underclass, interchangeably between either immigrants who are white, but also some kind of other socially marginalized groups. So, example, when North America was predominantly white Protestant in the 19th century, when Irish immigrants, German immigrants came to this country, Slavic immigrants as well. Just a special aside for Mike. I know Mike is a Slav. These people came to this country and were exploited because of, it was a byproduct of the natalist. The natalist, it was like you set them up and I'll knock them down, between the big capitalist and the nativist. And maybe it wasn't conscious, but this is the way that this symbiosis works, this parasitic cycle in which big business exploits the ignorance and bias of natalist working class people, like what the alt-right is now. The alt-right is basically a natalist movement, right? Meaning, like, oriented in white supremacy is so broad, but just kind of like xenophobia, right? Like xenophobia, race hatred, this idea of, the group that's already here, has a right to vilify these invaders, the incursion of genetic invaders. So, imagine in a post-industrial era, any marginalized groups, whether it was the Irish, the German, the Italian immigrants that were fleeing from poverty and famine in their own countries into this country, and when they arrived here being socially marginalized, and then business owners, particularly factory owners, confining these people to slums, exploiting their desperation, just like in the mid to late 20th century, that group transformed into Mexican Americans who were displaced by NAFTA. They always, whenever the right wing, whether it's the extreme alt-right or like even right-wing standard conservatives, whenever they talk about these influxes of migration from other countries, they don't talk about the fact that it was the Western countries, ostensibly white people, or at least countries with power structures wrapped around white supremacy, that create these influxes of migrants. It is the wars. It is capitalist exploitation and imperialism that creates the necessity for people from the third world to come to the first world. So the big capitalists create crisis in these third world countries, and your working class white guy sees this influx of immigrants, and all he thinks about is the immigrants themselves, and not the people on top of the pyramid, not Jews. Because I know that's going to be the go-to thing here. Not Jews. Rich people. Okay? Predominantly Anglo-Saxon rich people. I don't know how long Mike's ancestors have been in America. But in America, most racism is premised upon the Mayflower rule. Most wealth has been distributed based upon the Mayflower rule, which is, you have to be a pure English Anglo-Saxon person to be part of old money in the United States. Old money. I'm talking about the kind of plantation money that Richard Spencer lives off of. That's old money. It's very ironic that the alt-right's champion and the guy who coined the term is a white plantation owner born into wealth, an old money Mayflower white boy like Richard Spencer. It's so classic, is playing a bunch of dumb, poor, white trash people like they always have, and pitting them against the another tier of marginalized person. See, if we empower the people who are marginalized in this country, let's say African Americans, then those people are no longer a surplus source of cheap surplus labor for big capitalists, with which to undermine, amongst other groups, working class white people. If you stop invading and butt-fucking those countries of brown and black people, Asians, all that stuff, then you would stop having these massive influxes of desperate people looking for work and housing and resources and all that stuff, because their own countries wouldn't be fucked by the West, wouldn't be raped, exploited, burned, bombed by Western nations. They could actually build their own economies. If the West stopped installing tin pot dictators into third world countries to keep these people from creating collectivist economic systems in some kind of a basic sense. Because I know the alt-right is very much so about understanding the importance of collectivism. Then what's funny is that your boogeyman would go away if you just gave him a hand. You know what I mean? Your boogeyman will go away if you just helped all the people that you blame for their own disenfranchisement, because you don't want to accept. Here's the thing that the alt-right and the Tea Party and the silent majority and every other group of little lords since Edmund Burke doesn't want to come to terms with. It's somebody that's the same color as you putting his foot on your neck. It's a rich white man who's gonna fuck you out of existence, prima nocta, baby. He's gonna fuck up your neighborhood. He's going to fuck up your trailer park. He's going to put a big box store in your small town. Who do you think destroyed the economy of small town America? Insurgent black gang members? Walmart is more of a perpetuator of white genocide than any group of Muslim migrants could ever be.